Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Roland and in this video I am talking about the UK's application to the single market. Let's get started. And yes, of course, no, we have not applied to the single market at this moment in time. But the Resolution Foundation just published a report that Brexit costs us 220 to 730 pounds per person per year. And looking at the figures alone has some people, even in the Tory party, wonder why the heck did we do this? Now, when you look at the paper of the Resolution Foundation, you will see that the 220 pounds cost is for those people who are lucky enough to still be in the EU de facto. That is the data for Northern Ireland. And if you are unlucky enough to be in London or depending on a job in London, you are 730 pounds out of pocket per year. Now, in fact, the years 2017 to 2021 have cost us more than all our 40 years of EU membership combined. Hooray, Brexit. The gift that keeps on giving. And yet, people are dismissing every single piece of evidence that says this was a bad idea. Now, what are our benefits? Blue passports. We could have had them anyways. Anytime we wanted to make those passports blue, we could have done it. Border control, sending people back that don't have jobs and that we don't want here. Not working very well, is it? 3,000 people in June this year. So these flights to Rwanda seem to be very, very popular and attracting a lot of people. Fishermen and farmers worse off. And one fisherman saying he has to fill out 27 pages of forms just to send a bloody fish to their former buyers in the EU. What's coming now, only mediated by the chaos in British airports right now, is British holidaymakers fuming at the fact that they have to join the other queue at the arrivals. Well, that is exactly what you voted for. And everybody I'm talking to knows exactly what they were voting for, and yet they are furious. They are no longer in the EU and have to join the non-EU queue. Looking at any piece of positivity for Brexit, but dismissing the same source, the same person when they say something negative, is a sign how misled and how unwilling people are to admit that they were misled. I'm not even talking about the roaming charges holidaymakers are getting experienced now. I'm not talking about the EU enforcing its borders and demanding pre-registration. I'm talking about the whole situation. If you look at the factual state of affairs, what did we gain from it? What did we gain from Brexit? Even the trade deals that we managed to sign are shit. I will talk about those trade deals in a minute. But first of all, let's talk about this electronic pre-registration, ETIAS. The UK voted for that. The UK voted for a travel document and pre-registration like the US has already implemented years ago. The UK will implement their equivalent in 2025. But if the delayed border controls are any sign of it, we are not going to deploy this ever. Now, bear in mind, this is a travel document, not a visa. And it will cost you €7, is valid for 3 years, and €2 a year is really the last thing you should be worried about. Why are you not worried about the 220 to 730 pounds this has cost you? Why? Oh, the EU membership also cost us so much money. And I will tell you in a moment exactly how much full EU membership has cost us. But first, let's look at our brilliant Brexit trade deals, for example, with Japan and Canada. And those trade deals are, whatever quota the EU does not use, you can have it. That trade deal doesn't give us anything. It doesn't replace the trade that we have lost. It doesn't replace the trade that we have lost with the European Union. And all these trade deals, all these agreements, even the withdrawal agreement, is only setting up barriers to our own exports. We have sanctioned ourselves. That's it. We haven't done anything to others. We have only sanctioned ourselves. And our trade deal with Japan and Canada is depending on the European Union being nice enough to us, not using their own quota. And around comes Jacob Rees-Mogg. To solve the problem, let's drop all the border checks. Let everything and everyone in. The moment that happens, every other country in the world is going to drag us in front of the World Trade Organization and say, we want the same. It's literally doing nothing at all. If we drop the border checks for EU goods indefinitely, this is what's going to happen. And if we drop the border checks for every single country in the world, which the World Trade Organization will make us do, we have zero control over what is coming into our borders, whether those goods are safe or dangerous. Simply not going to happen. And this thing alone shows me it's very hard to find the right words, but what a crap idea this thing was in the first place, and how badly it was executed by someone whose only care in life is, I want to be Prime Minister. Why are we punishing ourselves? It's not the European Union punishing us. If we really stop those border checks, which is what Jacob Rees-Mogg wants, it is not going to benefit our exports. We are not checking our exports going out. That's the other countries checking what's coming into it. It would be a violation of the withdrawal agreement and, as I said, a violation of World Trade Organization terms. Not only would the European Union be able to withdraw from the withdrawal agreement, every other country in the world will insist, no, we want the same thing. We are going to dump all our crap in your country. Is that what we want? Well, some people certainly are going to benefit from this, but let me appreciate you of the situation. It ain't gonna be you or me. Now, another Tory member, Tobias Ellwood, former Secretary of Defense, I think, proposes, why don't we join the single market? We would have all the economic benefits of EU membership. It would solve all our export problems. Yeah, absolutely true. It will solve the issue of border checks. Also true, we wouldn't have to do them. And we would be able to join the EU queues at the airport. There would be no roaming charges, no 27 pages of documents for a fish to be sold from a British fisherman to a EU customer. Immediately, all Brexiteers, including pro-EU member of the House Tom Tugendhat, were rolling over Mr. Ellwood. What a bad idea this is. Well, we can't point out that Brexit is not working, can we? And if the premise of our decision making is, oh, Brexit is good, all the crap that's happening, have to live with it, can't change the Brexit, can we? Then these things will keep on happening. It is going to affect you more and more. Now I want to look at this a bit more in detail, because the single market does not mean we would have to accept the euro. It also doesn't mean customs union. But we already have an agreement that could easily be expanded. And in terms of freedom of movement controlling our borders, why was Liechtenstein able to be granted exceptions from freedom of movement? They have quotas. How many people from the EU are allowed to settle there? They have another quota for people from Switzerland who are allowed to settle there. Why could we not have negotiated that in our withdrawal agreement? The only reason I can think of is that certain people in our government did not want this. And now the argument could be made that, well, Liechtenstein is a small country and they still have to pay, yes? We are also paying. We are paying a lot of money to be out. And the benefits, what are the benefits? Blue passports, we could have had them. Closing our borders, not happening. The only thing that has happened tangibly is that our exports are screwed. That's what happened. And now people know someone who says, oh, I have made a lot of money with this Brexit. My salary has gone up so much. Well, and even with that person making so much more money, income per person in this country, the average is down. Why do we keep denying all the bad things that are happening? Just to cover a bad decision that we made? Just to defend the one decision in our life that we made and went our way? The only thing that is, it is demonstrating that some people cannot be trusted with making decisions. Because this decision is bad for us. Why are we making decisions that are bad for us? Why would we do that? Now, one thing that has been brought up, and it is absolutely true, if we join the single market, we have the rules dictated by Brussels. Yeah. Just as they are doing right now. Just as the American market is doing right now. If you want to sell something to the Americans, you are selling them what they want, not what you want. The rules are always dictated by the buyer, not by the seller. Any other market does the same thing. Look at the trade deals. The Japanese and the Canadians are telling us this is what you can sell us if the European Union lets you. I do not know what people claim to have won, but that looks like all the downsides, none of the upsides. And the worst part is being in the European Union, having all these rights, being able to have a say and say, no, we are not doing that, no, we don't want that. And negotiating with our partners was in fact cheaper. Now, first of all, the 350 million a week is an absolute misrepresentation. The 19 billion that this results in was the highest we ever paid, and we paid it during 1 year of our 40-year membership. Every other time we paid less. Secondly, we never paid 19 billion. That is not true. Because the rebate Margaret Thatcher negotiated for the United Kingdom is deducted at the source, meaning our treasury only sends 14.3 billion to the European Union. That is what the government says. Why are you now saying the government is lying about how much money they are paying? Are you really so detached from reality that you need to deny it in order to be right? And one thing that this does not take into account is all the money the European Union is sending back to us. 9.2 billion of what the European Union was sending us every single year went straight back to the British Treasury. We sent them 14.3 billion, they send us 9.2. Effectively, we are only sending 5 billion, I'm sorry. Now 5 billion is a lot of money. And if you divide that by the 65 million people that live in this country, you are paying less than £80 a year. The question really is 220 to 720, 730 pounds with all the issues that we are experiencing right now. Our economy completely fucked. Fishermen and farmers not being able to sell their products to our main market without a lot of hassle. Food rotting in the fields during a cost of living crisis. If anything, we should expand food production, but we have to produce less food, making food even more expensive because we can't harvest it. We can't harvest it because people are not coming. The mean foreigners are not coming doing our jobs. Yeah? They are no longer coming stealing our jobs. But that's not the jobs we want. We want the big CEO jobs that we are not even qualified for. Paul the mechanic wants to be a neurosurgeon. I wouldn't let him do my neurosurgery. What is happening right now is we are getting a lesson in humility and in finance at the same time. £80 and no problems at all like we are experiencing now. Or minimum 3 times that much. And all the complaints in the world that are certainly not related to Brexit because we knew what we voted for. And joining the single market being outright dismissed. Now before I close, I want to give a little bit of perspective from the European Union side. Let's just imagine through a sheer miracle we are applying to join the single market. First of all, that's not going to happen. The damage still isn't high enough for certain people here in this country to actually consider this and say, it's not what I want, but is the best solution we can come up with right now. No. We need to wait in the other queue for at least another year, experience all these problems, bankrupt our economy before people are even going to consider this. It will not be before 2024, 2025 until people are seriously thinking about this. Thinking about this, talking about this doesn't mean we are going to apply. At the same time, let me straightforward tell you, if we applied today, it is highly unlikely the EU would say yes. Now, if you don't believe me and say, oh, they said we could come back, we would even get our rebate. No. Paper is patient and you can say a lot of things in the heat of the moment that you don't have to act upon later on. If we applied, even today, the European Union may or may not recommend this to all its members for acceptance. All governments, all national governments across the EU would then be thinking, our citizens were called foreigners. They were told to fuck off. We are being threatened with the withdrawal agreement being ripped up. Why would we want that troublemaker in the single market? How are we going to benefit from the UK joining the single market? We won't. We will have the troublemaker in the single market. We don't want that. That is going to be the thought process. Now I could repeat all the bollocks Leave voters were talking about civil wars and unpacking their Kalashnikovs, but that's not going to solve the problem. The problem is right now we are paying shitloads of money for being out with zero benefits. And not only because it is very difficult to realize any form of benefit, it's because we have a government that is unable to negotiate these benefits. They can't even make use of the opportunities they said we would have. The only alternative we have is to look at these figures and wonder, when are people going to realize that 80 is a lot less cost than 220 to 720? I remain curious if and when that will happen. Until then, have a good day. Goodbye.